Today we'll be reacting to Zack D film.
Sparks landed on the dynamite after bursting out of the train's smokestack. Now, it was parked in the middle of a town, and if it exploded, it could kill thousands of people. But one man saw the fire, and without hesitating, he jumped into the cabin. He threw the train in reverse and sped away as the dynamite kept burning. And 4 miles down the track, an enormous blast ripped through the train. The man was killed instantly, but the town survived, and his
W's in chat.
sacrifice made him a national hero.
If that was me, I would have jumped off the train tracks and while it's still in reverse, I'd just be running.
They soak $1 bills in bleach until the ink dissolves. And this is because real bills are made from special paper that's hard to recreate. Once all the ink is gone, a real banknote is left behind, and a printer then prints a fake $100 design. Now, if someone checks the note at a store, it will pass as a standard test. But if they look a little closer, they'll see it's missing the right UV marks, putting an end to the counterfeit operation. They soak $1. If everyone on Earth clipped their toenails and threw them into the ocean, you might think they'd float and blanket a huge area. But toenails don't actually float, so they would pile up at the bottom of the ocean. As over 82 billion clippings rain down, it would choke fish and smother the seafloor until a massive pile broke through the surface. And after this global clipping, you would have a walkable toenail island, 10 times bigger than Central Park.
This is probably true, but in Ohio, times Ohio.
If everyone, her head would rotate behind her, catching you as
Is anyone getting Ohio vibes in this video?
you try to sneak a cookie. Now, for that to work, her neck would need to have double the amount of vertebrae than normal, and each one would need to be flatter and rounder to twist without snapping. Her arteries would have to be stretchy and doubled up to keep blood flowing even when twisted. Finally, if her neck muscles were strong enough, she could whip her head completely backwards, just like an owl. Her head would rotate. Your eyes could pop out of their sockets if you.
Do you see that meme when this person pops their eyes out at people? Like this. Wait.
Ever seen someone make their eyes pop out of their head? Before I explain, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. It's a rare skill called
Like that.
Your eyes could pop out of their sockets if you
But that is a medical condition.
hit your head during a car accident.
Maybe this happened to them.
Traumatic blow causes bleeding inside the socket, which builds up behind the eye. As it continues to bleed, it increases the pressure until it forces the eyeball forward, causing them to bulge out of your head. Doctors must act fast to put your eyes back in and save your vision. Your eye. If a potato is jammed on the end of a gun and the trigger is pulled, the dense flesh absorbs the expanding gases that create the loud bang. This drastically reduces the sound, but the potato can't handle the force of the shot and would instantly explode, covering the shooter in a layer of mashed potatoes. It could also trap the force inside the barrel, blowing it up and causing serious injuries. If a potato
Person looked like he just saw Bigfoot and the boogeyman from his childhood, and he's so traumatized. He kind of has that facial expression from the kid in Toy Story.
Is jammed. They place the ball of one foot on top of their hand, with their palm facing down. And with the next step, the other foot does the same. Now this allows their feet to rest slightly on their hands without touching the ground. And it keeps their weight spread out, which means they can walk over twigs without snapping them. Even though it was slow, it let them move silently toward their target, giving them the element of surprise. They place the ball. Keep your hands on the outside of the rungs if you're climbing a carnival ladder. When you reach forward with your foot, move the opposite hand to the next rung to balance. But if you lean just an inch to one side, you'll immediately fall off. Now, if the ladder had 4 points of...
I have an idea. Just run off as fast as you can. Just pick up some speed. Maybe let Usain Bolt do it and then just run up that thing.
Connection.
It happens so quick, even if he wobbles, or just get out in time.
Would be pretty easy. That's because your body's center of mass would only need to stay over the area made by those points. But these ladders only have 2 points of connection. That area becomes a single line, making it almost impossible to balance over, which is why everyone falls. Keep your hands on the outside. The woman's pee. The equipment fell into the crowd and hit a man on his head. A few days later, he couldn't speak or read. To help heal his brain, doctors suggested art therapy. And even though he had never painted before, he was suddenly obsessed. Soon, he was painting 20 hours a day.
Bro wakes up at 3 a.m. and goes to sleep at 12. If you sleep for one bad day, that reduces your life, how long you live. So that's gonna be...
Making hundreds of surreal artworks. He quickly became a world-famous artist. You see, the brain usually blocks overly detailed information, but the injury actually disabled this block, allowing him to see incredible detail and making him a genius painter. The massive nuke was lowered down the shaft before concrete was poured on top. You see, 3 years earlier, a gas well had erupted into flames, and a fireball over 400 feet high burned constantly.
If this was in the middle of a town during 4th of July, people would be having a blast.
Engineers tried to
plus the fireworks, I will be partying.
Put it out with water, but it did nothing. And installing a lid only forced the gas out in other places. Finally, they sent down a nuclear bomb. And when it detonated, the massive blast compressed the earth around the well. This closed up the pipe, finally putting an end to the fire. The massive nuke. If you never trim your nails, they'll grow 1/8 of an inch every month. And as they grow, they can start curling and twisting as the tissue underneath your nails grows thicker. This can lead to painful ingrown nails as they cut into your skin. But the nails that don't become ingrown get weaker the longer they grow, and some will break, leaving sharp edges that can cause cuts. Dirt and bacteria will collect underneath them, which could lead to fungal infections and bad smells. Eventually, your nails would grow so long that you would hardly be able to use your hands. If you never trim, if a stork tried to carry a baby, it wouldn't even lift it an inch. That's because storks can only carry about half a pound, nowhere near the weight of a newborn. Even if 6 more storks joined in, they might barely lift it, but they would never be able to fly away. For a single stork to carry a baby, it would need a wingspan of over 20 feet, about the size of a small plane. If a stork tried to carry a baby, it As you start reading the book, you realize it's your own life story. Every moment is written exactly as it happened. Your childhood, your regrets, even what you had for lunch last week. And finally, you read all the way to the moment you opened the book. You know the next page will reveal your future, but once you read it, you can't change what happens next. No free will and no surprises, just your fate fully
Can't you just see what you're gonna do in the future? Like in the next 2 seconds? And then just stop it from happening? Like spill your coffee and then be like, okay, I'm gonna stay still as a statue, not moving an inch. Or maybe if an assassin comes in your house, I'm gonna hire Tom Cruise. So that'll probably save your life.
revealed. Would you keep reading to find out your future? Or would
I'll keep reading. I can prevent my death.
you close the book forever? As you close the book, you close the book forever.
Wait.
As you start reading the book,
This?
future? Or would you close the rocket would travel along a sled at
Ohio roller coaster.
hypersonic speeds, and after 2 miles, the track would curve sharply up a mountain
This is Ohio roller coaster.
side. Once the rocket reached the top, its main engine would
Definitely went Holly.
kick in, launching it into the air. The rocket could carry over 100
The passengers will have a blast.
passengers into orbit, then land back on Earth in one piece. But it would cost over $1 billion to build and need a mountain over 1/2 mile high, meaning it was never made. The rocket would travel. A torpedo was hidden in the corpse's armpit as they were buried, and when a grave robber opened the coffin, it would trigger a tripwire inside. This released a firing pin, and as the gunpowder ignited, the explosion blasted metal balls straight into the thief's face. This would kill them instantly, and it acted. The tobacco is packed in. The bullet struck him directly in the chest, knocking him off his feet. Laying on his back, he waited for the pain, but he felt nothing. You see, he just happened to have a couple of coins in his chest pocket, and when the bullet hit him, it slammed into them. The force bent them inward, and the bullet wedged itself deep inside, holding the coins tightly together. And this absorbed the bullet's force, stopping it from piercing his body and saving his life. The giant mirror would catch sunlight.
Always hold 4 coins in every one of your pockets.
Focus the rays into a powerful beam. This would be aimed at cities and would ignite buildings and boil bodies of water. Nazi scientists actually drew up plans to build this thing. The mirror would be constructed in sections, connected in orbit, and controlled by rockets mounted on the back. And this would allow them to aim the beam and destroy entire cities.
Did Dr. Eggman be born? How did they even think of something like this? I give you 100% chance Dr. Eggman just created to make this. If Dr. Eggman was a real person, he would probably make this already.
But they lost the war just a few months later, meaning it was never attempted. The giant mirror would catch sun.
They tried to attempt it? Nah.
If you cut a chocolate bar into these 3 pieces and rearrange them, you magically gain an extra block. And if you do this over and over, you'll get an extra piece every time. Now, you might think you just created an infinite chocolate loop, but each time you move the pieces, you're actually making a small gap. The angle makes it look like they're the same size as before, but the missing chocolate is actually the same size as the extra piece, meaning eventually you will run out. If you cut his train crashed into a freezing river, but he survived and claimed that he was the luckiest man in the world. The next year, he was in a plane crash and 19 people died, but he managed to land in a haystack, surviving again. Later, he was in a bus crash, a car explosion, and 3 more serious accidents. And after surviving disaster after disaster, he ended up buying a lottery ticket and winning. His train
0.00002% people won the lottery.
Crash. A single drop would fall, hitting the prisoner's forehead. Then another falls, and another. Now at first it's just annoying, but the prisoner is strapped down, completely unable to move. And the drops keep coming, always landing in the exact same spot. As hours pass, the skin becomes raw, and each drop stings. They fall slowly, around 1 every few seconds. But the tap would shut off at random intervals, leaving the prisoner anxiously waiting for the next drop, slowly losing their minds. A single drop, the grenade pin was released as the team walked through a tripwire, but there was no time to run before it detonated. Instantly, one man threw himself onto the grenade, using his backpack as a shield, and a split second later, it detonated. The blast threw him into the air, the force ripping through his backpack and shredding his uniform. But the backpack had absorbed most of the deadly shrapnel. He was alive, and so was his team. He was later awarded one of the highest honors for risking his life. A cannonball would leave a massive hole in your chest, but your chest is full of important stuff, like your heart and lungs. But if the cannonballs—
Why did it show it not coming out the back? That thing's like 250 pounds going to you at like hundreds of miles. You think your body's gonna stop it? Nah, it's gonna go right through. Could probably another 42 people take.
somehow missed all of that, could you actually survive? Well, doctors would have to stop the bleeding and make sure the inside stay cleaned. Then they would have to take skin from another spot of your body and use it to cover the edges. And once it heals, some muscles might actually adapt. Your body would be severely limited, but might still work with just a huge gap right in the middle. A cannonball would— the bodies were laid on marble slabs and kept cool with
What are they trying to do?
trickling water. Visitors would come by
This is probably what grave diggers do.
to try to
I bet you $100 the owner is probably a grave digger.
identify them. But people were so fascinated by the corpses that it soon turned into a tourist attraction.
Are they crazy? I bet you every single one of the people in the pictures are probably gonna be grave diggers.
Every day, 40,000 visitors would come to stare at the dead bodies, and street vendors would sell food outside to people waiting. New victims were even advertised in the newspaper, drawing crowds so big they stopped traffic. But eventually, the morgue closed its doors, leaving many people disappointed. The bodies were— if you cut open a cockroach, you'll get a tiny bit of cockroach milk. And that's because they produce this yellow goo to feed their babies, which then hardens into a crystal. Now, these crystals actually have more nutrients than cow's milk, but each roach only makes a tiny amount, smaller than a grain of sand, meaning you need to milk around 3,000 of them just to fill one glass. If you held your arms up for a long time, your blood would struggle to flow, and your fingers would go numb within hours. After a few weeks, without enough blood reaching them, your muscles would waste away, and your
Who would keep their arm up for hours?
bones would get brittle. The lubrication in your joints would dry out, making them permanently stiff, and over years, they would fuse together. Now, some religious followers have actually tried this, and once the damage was done, they couldn't put them down again, leaving them stuck with their mummified arms up in the air. If you help, they swoop down towards the flames, snatching up burning sticks in their talons. With the embers still smoldering, they fly hundreds of feet away, dropping the sticks onto dry grass and brush. In seconds, a new fire starts. This sends insects and small animals
Kill all firehawks.
running for their lives. Then the birds circle the burning grass, picking off animals that try to escape. And once the flames die down, they do it all over again, igniting fires just to hunt. They swoop down.
That's a mess. They're a menace to society.
Tap their foot to check for a response if your baby stops breathing. If they don't move, open their mouth and check if anything is blocking the airway. Next, place 2 fingers in the center of their chest and push down about 1.5 inches at a steady rhythm 30 times. Then tilt their head back slightly and give 2 gentle breaths, just enough to make their chest rise. Keep going with 30 compressions and 2 breaths until the baby starts breathing or help arrives. Tap. When a nuclear bomb is dropped, a piece of uranium sits at its core, slowly releasing particles. But when it gets close to the ground, sensors trigger an explosion around it, and this forces the particles to collide with the atoms inside, about 10 septillion of them. Now, atoms are held together by massive amounts of energy, and as the particles split them apart, that energy is released 10 septillion times. This causes
So if I stand right next to a nuclear bomb, would I be into atoms?
a massive explosion above the ground to make
That this picture right here looks like a retro city, but with the opposite of night, with no sun.
it reaches as far as possible, and everything below it is instantly vaporized. When a nuclear
Pretty sure.
They shoved the sick cat into the canister and shot it through a tube toward the vet. But when it arrived, it ran away, traumatized. You see, these tubes worked by using giant fans to push the canister along at high speed. Some networks would send mail, while McDonald's actually used them to deliver burgers.
Where are they delivering burgers to? Do they have them hooked up to their own houses? Depends if they're a real McDonald's lover. Or do they send them to the pickup people?
And one engineer even built a system to carry people, but the air rushed into the compartments, which weren't properly sealed. This could destroy the contents and terrify passengers, and they were eventually discontinued. Tiny stones came out of her eye while she was crying. Confused, her family rushed her to the hospital, where doctors watched as stones continued to fall out. Now, they tested these stones, but couldn't figure out where they were coming from. Analysis showed nothing unusual in her body, and to this day, nobody knows why the girl cries stones instead of tears. As you move forward, the pole dips gently on both sides, spreading your
Am I gonna steel pole? In case if I drop? But just don't stand there if you fall. Fall to the left or the right. Don't fall in the middle. 'Cause the rope will go in between your legs. And yeah, if you fall.
weight across a bigger area and slowing down every little movement. That means it takes more time and effort to start tipping and more time to keep tipping. This gives the walker time to notice they're off balance and shift their weight to fix it. Without the pole, your movements would be quicker with less time to react. As you He mixed the chemicals together, hoping to create a clear plastic for gun sights, but it instantly stuck to everything it touched. It was too sticky to be useful, so it was abandoned. But years later, he realized it could be used as a powerful glue. Eventually, his employer decided to bottle it up and sell it. Once it hit stores, it made billions of dollars, and it now sells millions of tubes every year. He mixed the If you melted down all the fat in your body and made it into a candle, it would burn for an impressive 4 months. And if you did the same thing with every human on Earth, you'd have over 200 billion pounds of human fat. With that, you could make one giant candle that would burn for an incredible 2.9 billion years. Or you can make enough smaller candles to light every home on Earth for 15 years. Only there wouldn't be any humans left to use them. If you melted down all, she jumped, but her main parachute didn't open. And when she pulled the emergency, it sent her spinning out of control. She hit the ground at 80 miles an hour, shattering her bones. And the force was so hard, the fillings flew out of her teeth.
I thought that was stones. That was like, she threw up stones?
Should have died, but she landed on a mound of fire ants, and they stung her over 200 times. The venom shocked her heart into beating and released a massive surge of adrenaline. And when paramedics finally found her, she was covered in ants, but alive. She jumped, but her main Bro just looked at him and said, just put the thumbs up. That's it for today's video.